Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Crocker. I'm the chair at Boardroom Metrics. Boardroom Metrics is a governance consulting firm working with public, private, not-for-profit organizations of all sizes, helping them with governance effectiveness. Quick presentation today on the state of CEO evaluation best practices. At Boardroom Metrics, we do a lot of work with both CEO and board evaluations. There are three roles of the board of directors. One is to identify risks to the organization. The second is to develop strategies to mitigate those risks and to execute the mission better. And the third role of a board is to evaluate the CEO's performance and ensure that the CEO is executing the strategic plan that's been approved by the board. So evaluating the CEO really has become a standard board best practice. 10 years ago, not so much, but it is highly relevant today. We do not work with many organizations who aren't doing some form of CEO evaluation. Majority of boards that we work with and that we speak with are conducting the evaluation themselves. The evaluation tends to be most of them tend to be surveys of directors looking for input on the CEO. Anywhere from 10 to literally 70 questions, maybe the largest we've seen, soliciting feedback on the CEO and generally coming from directors. The growing trend that we're seeing and we're big believers in because we think it leads to higher quality is the growing trend to externally led CEO evaluation process. So externally led would be having an outside firm like ours take over the leadership of the process, help with the customization of the tool, putting the feedback together and reporting back to the board of directors. These CEO evaluations gather feedback, not just from directors, which is pretty standard in the self-evaluations, but also from the leadership team and others who may have significant or important interaction with the CEO. We actually find that pretty important. Surveys that just get feedback from directors, it's not like all directors spend a lot of time working with the CEO, and sometimes can be very difficult for them to provide in-depth or solid feedback in terms of how the CEO is doing. So we believe it truly is important to get feedback from others who understand and who work with the CEO on a regular basis. The feedback in these external led evaluations include survey data. Series of questions, soliciting feedback, interviews with either everybody who's participating in the CEO evaluation, or at least a subset, and then other information that could relate to the CEO's objectives, goals, other plans that have been laid out for the CEO, and getting feedback on that. With respect to the interviews, from our perspective, some of the best data we get, some of the best feedback we get, some of the most helpful feedback we get comes from the interviews. It can really add a substantial layer of understanding to the survey data and any of the other feedback that we're getting with respect to the CEO. So interviews of people who are contributing to the CEO evaluation, really, really, really important and helpful. As I mentioned earlier, we see that the benefits of these externally led processes, it's really the expertise that's being brought both to the survey, to the evaluation process, and to the knowledge of the CEO. And what that results in is higher quality, more objective results. I want to be really careful. I don't want to be insulting to boards who take this on their own. Really appreciate, in fact, any board that goes about taking on this process. But there are certainly ways of increasing the quality of the feedback, and by both being objective and expert about it can be very, very helpful. The end result, and this is the key reason for doing a CEO evaluation, is with a higher quality feedback does lead to better CEO performance planning. At the end of the day, and in fact, it's one of the greatest gaps in a lot of the CEO evaluation work that we see, is the board will conduct a CEO evaluation, get the results, but beyond that, often, I would say more often than not, it doesn't go anywhere from there. And really, the CEO evaluation should be a key element of the CEO performance planning process. We like to say to our clients, CEOs are employees too, and most organizations have some form of performance planning for their employees, and certainly that process should apply to the CEO also. Final important benefit that we see is good acceptance of the process and the results by CEOs when they believe in the evaluation process, when they see that it's credible. And I think when I say credible, most importantly, CEOs get very frustrated when they don't believe that an evaluation really applies to them, when they feel that there's a lack of understanding by the evaluator, if that's the board or people on the board who don't necessarily understand what a CEO goes through on a daily basis. And you know, the more we can overcome that, the greater acceptance there is by CEOs of the process and the results. Many CEOs, this is just a truth, many CEOs that we work with, that we see, I'm an ex-CEO, I get it. Many CEOs struggle with being evaluated. They're used to running a business on a day-to-day basis. They're used to having a lot of responsibility. They're used to making big decisions, and it's not always easy. It's often not easy for CEOs to be comfortable with the evaluation process. And therefore, you know, an objective, confidential process that is consistent with their role really helps them overcome that. And by consistent with their role, what I mean is an evaluation that truly reflects their organization. It's not generic. It reflects their organization. It reflects the stresses they've got, the challenges they're facing. It reflects the people they're working with. And a CEO evaluation that can be structured that way is much, much better for the CEO and provides much better results. At Boardroom Metrics, these types leading this process, the external process, is another way that we help boards be more effective. As I mentioned before, me personally, both a ton of board experience, but I have been a CEO of a number of organizations, including a public organization, for 6 years. I understand what it's like from the CEO perspective to be evaluated and to be evaluated both by processes that I respected and by processes that I didn't. And the ones that I respected certainly led to much, much better results. So it's, I think it's a perspective that we bring to the evaluation process that can be very helpful for boards of directors to help their CEOs. Please let us know if you need any more information. The webpage you're on includes two surveys that you can use or customize, or we can help you lead in order to evaluate your CEO. At this time of the coronavirus, where it's still uncertain which direction it's going, we are capable of, and we have done a number of these evaluations now remotely. It's easy to do the surveys remotely. It's easy to do the interviews remotely. So we don't need face-to-face time in order to conduct a high-quality CEO evaluation. More information, info@boardroommetrics.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. Again, thank you very much. My name is Jim Crocker. I'm the chair at Boardroom Metrics.